We are live. Hey, George. How's it going?
Hey, Dan. Well, it's funny. I'm looking at the notes, and the top of the notes say run of show, and literally running into this show today, bouncing between different appointments and scheduled things. So crazy. A lot of things happening.
I'm just glad you're here. I thought this might be the one-man Dan
Cutting
show.
it close. Cutting it close today.
So just glad to have you. It's going to be a fun episode because we're talking about our streaming gear, which is always fun to talk about, and it's always evolving. What's your take on this topic? Is this interesting to you?
Well, it is, and funny enough, maybe the fact that I'm literally running into my home office here, turning on a Pearl and trying to get set up to do this show in like zero time.
You got set up today in less than 5 minutes. So
yeah, I mean, I think that
impressive.
kind of highlights that maybe at this point, after nearly 2.5 years, we might have it dialed in so that we're not just constantly changing things or fixing things. It's pretty established. And of course, what we do is what we really want to share with you guys today, because we've talked about this before. In the beginning of the pandemic, we talked about this. And things have changed, but also not. So I think we want to go through that and highlight, because I don't know about you, Dan, I still look around in general in the world and still see 2+ years, people still can't get this right. It's still so bad at times, whether it's the audio or the video, the lighting, whatever it is. So what are the excuses now? But mostly, let's talk about maybe what we do that works so well.
Yeah, well, I got the flashback to 2020 playing. You'll see on the screen share here. And you can see even the quality of your video, George, has improved quite a bit in 2 years. And I think this was a very popular video on our YouTube channel. It had almost 30,000 views. And, people were really trying to figure out how to get the best quality video for their video conferencing, for their work, for their home setups. And, it wasn't necessarily always easy. There's a lot of factors to take into consideration.
Well, I think the funniest thing is that we got a ton of compliments in that video about how good it looked, because I was in that video, I'm playing the high quality and Zhao is playing the low quality up the nose shot, intentionally highlighting that you shouldn't do that. But funny enough, what I produced today is way better in pretty much everything except for the background that I use keying, and we'll get more into that in a moment. But I was using a webcam back then. I don't do that anymore. The microphone's the same, but I was using different earbuds than I do now. Like, everything has changed. The physical location, same room, but space is different for lighting improvements. So, we figured, if that was good and what we're doing now is even better, we should probably break that down.
Yeah, I'm just flashing through a few photos here. I think this is probably the first evolution of your setup. So tell me what's going on here.
So the setup I have now, and maybe we'll show you in a little bit, is actually not that much different from those pictures. But essentially, in that video, one side of my face was very blown out. And that's because I was sitting directly beside a window with natural light. And you can see it's just blowing my face out on the left side of my face. And natural light is wonderful, except when it's not. And it's really, really hard to counteract natural light with artificial light, because natural light is just so strong. We don't really think about how strong it is until you see something like that. So I moved away from the window, and that's what those pictures show. I moved my desk away from the window. I switched to a sit-stand desk, which I'm standing at the moment, because I find standing, when I'm presenting, speaking, doing things like this, not only is your voice better, but I'm more energetic. I feel better when I'm standing doing this stuff. And that's not everybody's thing, but certainly for me. So I moved to, sit stand position. I could do that. It allowed me to get away from the natural light and use mostly artificial light for, maybe we'll touch on this a little later, but to try and achieve more of that 3-point lighting type of scheme. My camera changed, all these things changed to just enhance and improve a lot of that stuff.
So roughly what size of room are you working from, George?
It's not huge. It's about 10 foot by 12 foot. So it's not a big space. It's something where, you can see there, it's what used to be a bedroom in my home, and isn't anymore, but not a huge room at all. And so, the setup was primarily focused around trying to get some sound deadening and find a position that I could control the lighting, and still have access to everything, and try to mount things as best I could. The camera was certainly one of the hardest things to mount, in a way that I can maintain a good eye line, but also not be too far away. So there's a few elements there.
You got it in pretty close, right above your screen. Yeah, it's nice there.
Yeah, it's as tight as it can be to the top of my monitor. The monitor height adjusts, so kind of have it at a perfect level. But one thing everyone, I think, always struggles with, and I think we'll touch on this a little later as well, is what if you're trying to read from notes? How do you maintain a good eye line? How do you have a teleprompter without a teleprompter? So one thing, this picture you have up right now, Dan, one thing that has changed from that picture is directly behind my camera on that wall behind it, I actually have a 32-inch television wall mounted back there, so that it's basically, I can read my notes, be perfectly eye line with the camera, and use it as a teleprompter. So that's an evolution that's not in that picture that has made a huge difference.
Yeah, when you have the ultra wide monitor too, you also kind of want to put your video conferencing window right under that lens to get the nice eye line. It definitely will help, as opposed to if you have it over in the corner, it almost looks like you're looking sideways.
Well, the other funny thing, and this is sort of an anecdote thing, but the ultra wide and then a portrait 16:9 in that setup also meant I didn't really have a good monitor to share, say, slide content, because
right, you don't have a 16:9 monitor. Yeah,
right. If you ever try and share an ultra wide in something like Zoom, people freak out. They don't know what to do when all of a sudden Zoom is 10 feet wide and they're trying to view it on a narrower monitor. So having the TV as my primary slide share source is also better, since it's a normal 16:9 aspect.
Cool. Let's take a flashback look at my setup circa 2020. I think, well,
isn't that
I think
just
this
a
might
picture
have
of
been
your kitchen?
It was kitchen for most of 22. I think once we got in, actually it started with basement. And then I think I migrated to a bedroom. And what do we have here? This is I'd say my first sort of evolution of the setup, which was to, like you, have a camera right above my monitor. I went with just two 16:9 monitors, and then you'll see I have a couple of lights that are on stands. Actually, this is the second set of lights I had. Originally, I had like tungsten soft boxes, which actually looked amazing. Like, they looked fantastic, but I was cooking in the room. Like, it got quite warm in this small room. And then the other problem I had was I was burning through light bulbs, man. Like, those older like incandescent tungsten soft boxes, beautiful lighting. But just, I was spending probably, at least a light bulb a month. And those things are not cheap. They're like $40 light bulbs. So I had to switch to LED and sort of never look back. And you see on the left, I have a pancake LED light, and I'm still using it. So maybe I'll show it a little closer later. And then on the right, I've just got like almost like one of those little DSLR light panels.
Right.
And it's just on kind of a desk mount that has some like a flexible arm kind of setup. So this was good. And you'll see I've got the Pearl Mini sitting right on my desk. I find it's a really nice desktop device, just because you've got that 7-inch touchscreen. You're really easy to start and stop your streams and your records. And then some audio and computer, of course, as well. Reverse angle, so you see I'm shooting into a wall here.
Right.
I've got a little bit of like what do you call it? Practical lighting, I would say.
Which always helps.
And yeah, that's pretty much it. It's nice shooting. It's nice having your desk off the wall, because then you can kind of create some depth of field behind your desk. You're kind of doing the same thing with your green screen. Here, I just had a plain gray wall. I'd say my criticism of this setup was it was a little too plain. Just a gray wall behind is, people get a little tired of seeing that. So Yeah, that
Yeah, and
would
the
be what
practical
I.
lighting is great as accent lighting, but again, once you go green screen, that doesn't work, and so you kind of end up changing, different things. Because if any of you out there have tried to do green screens and chroma keying, the first rule is nice, even lighting on the screen. Otherwise, your keying is a mess. And so, that became honestly one of the focal points for my setup was making sure I had space to move around here in my desk, but that the green screen was close enough and in a position where I could light it well. And I have, of the 4 total lights I use, 2 of them essentially are only used to light the green screen. And then the other 2 are just are on me. So.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, hey, let's check on chat. I see Marta was asking a question. What kinds of cameras and mics do you guys use? Okay. I am using a Canon M200, which I really like. I never have to touch it. It just kind of sits there and just works. I don't even turn it off. It just always powered on, and the focus is automatic, so I don't really have to tinker with it too much. You'll see I'll go to a single here. Like if I put my hand up close here, let's see it kind of, it'll
pretty good.
The focus will shift. Let's see how quick it can get back.
That's pretty fast.
Pretty nice.
That's definitely better than mine.
So that's kind of why I like this camera. That said, it's not like a challenging focus situation or anything, but you do move around more than you think.
Yep.
And then for microphone, I'm using the Scarlett as an audio device, and then I've got, what is this? Audio Technica AT50, I think.
Or was that the 2020 or
2020? That's it.
2020.
That's it.
Yeah, pretty popular mic. It's very popular for like recording voiceovers and that style of thing. So it's perfect for that setup.
Do recommend the pop filter with it. I've used it without the pop filter, but the grill on it is very like porous. So like the air coming out of your mouth hits the mic very easily. So yeah, the pop filter definitely. Definitely.
So you mentioned you're using pancake lights. Do you know which brand of lights those ones are? Or?
These are the Falcon Eyes. Well, do you want to take a look? I can give you a little bit of a tour here. Let me start.
Let's take a deeper look at the setup.
Well, how should we do this? I'll just go to my, let's go like this. Okay, I can start with a bit of a side view. So, desk, monitor, camera. I've got right now kind of like 3-point lighting, but I also have a little cheat light right here that's helping to light the green screen.
Yep, that helps.
And then this is an Elgato green screen
and that's the pop-up like roll-up style one.
Yeah, so let me see if I can give you an idea of just how convenient this is.
Oh, so good.
It's just nice to be able to put it away, when you're done, right? And it folds up nice, and you can kind of just tuck it under a bed or put it into a closet.
Right.
And
they make a version of that pulls down from the ceiling too, which is brilliant.
I can probably go into a little bit more detail here. Let me just switch to.
Yeah, I'll just note while you do that, Dan, that we are actually talent and producing this show today. We did it. Our producers were all busy on other tasks, so excuse me.
Yeah, and the cough filter isn't active right now because we're one man. I'm sort of producing today actually.
Yeah.
Here I've got, and this is probably the latest addition to the setup, which is if you're familiar with this, is a Stream Deck. So I've got my Stream Deck paired up to our Studio Pearl, and basically I'm operating it remotely, so I can.
So how do you do that?
Switch through
I'm baiting the question now because we're going to throw a link in the chat to an excellent video that we published recently about how to use a Stream Deck with a Pearl. So definitely you need to check that out, but because that's exactly what Dan's doing, because we get that question all the time. Can I use a Stream Deck with Pearl? The answer is yes, and we have a great video to show you how now. But yeah, so I mean that's making your self-producing possible, right?
That's the only way I could figure out how to do this today is I needed some convenient buttons. So I've got, I'll kind of give you the quick view here, but here's our layout. So I can go back to our 2-up. I'll go, now that's going to be cropped, right? But I can go to, why don't we just go to a single on me. I can go to, and then I've got this layout that's kind of like my cell phone view paired with you. So this I figured would be a good view for a tour. And then we can run, even pair up our singular graphics here. So you'll see title graphics. Why don't we run that again?
Hit the title. There we go. Perfect.
And there we go. It's just that easy. So you can kind of set up a script using the Stream Deck software combined with the companion app, which Jeremy did a tutorial for. So that's pretty easy to set up and get rocking and rolling with. But I can show you kind of the setup here in the studio anyways. And I think you're probably hearing me through the phone audio now, so I'm not sure how good the audio will be. That might be a little noisy.
So you added some stuff just for the show by the looks of it. You added some enhancements.
Well, and because I was shooting some video on demand video too that demanded some different setups. So kind of, I guess starting here, the central brain of everything, and we're going to get some streamception here, but we've got a Pearl 2. This has been convenient because, well, it kind of does everything. I can have a bunch of inputs, which I do. I have computer inputs and camera inputs, recording them. It's all very nice and tidy, and send my SRT stream to the studio. And then over here, I've got this sort of second camera angle, which
is that another M200?
And this is another M200. I'm just borrowing this one, but same camera. So we'll get in nice and close here. Yeah, matches up nicely, obviously, with the other camera. I've just got this on a little stand. And then my extra monitor I just threw on an arm here, and it gives me a little bit of a confidence monitor, as well as I was using it kind of as a teleprompter almost.
That helps. To
read some content in this camera. Now, is this a good teleprompter solution? Not really, because the eyeline isn't right, but it still helps to have the script visible. So that when you make a mistake, you can do another take right away.
Right. So that looks like it's probably a pretty normal 27-inch, I'm guessing, monitor.
This might even be a 32. This was this is actually my wife was using this monitor. And I stole it from her. This was her office monitor. So and then here is I just popped this up for fun today, but this is just a little field monitor that I use when I'm out shooting. And today I just have it set up as a confidence monitor. So it's going to show me whatever I'm streaming out on this Pearl to the studio. I'm going to have an exact replica of it here. So you see, here's what I'm streaming out right now. It's not in the layout. Oh, that's funny. But nice, there you go.
Inception there.
What else is notable here? This is just another big panel light. I love these Manfrotto mounts on the desk.
Those help.
They're super, super versatile, and good to just not have stands, because stands take up floor space, whereas these don't.
They do. I went with wall mounts for the same reason, because it was just easier to do.
Yeah, so this light really helps with the green screen. And then I do have a backlight over here, but it doesn't really come into play so much when the green screen is up. But it does just help to put some more ambient sort of fill light, and I try to bounce it off the ceiling. The big challenge that I have in this room is this window. And I'll just put this screen down for a minute. So much like you, lighting conditions being what they are, depending on time of day, blinds for me made the most sense as an option, because I do have some control that I can let light in if I need it. But most of the time when I'm actually shooting content or filming video or doing any streaming, I just keep them closed and try to keep the lighting as controlled as possible. So
that's great.
That's kind of the setup. I do have a Nano over here, but it's not really coming into play right now. But when I want to do anything with H.265 streaming, or I do like that it has the pass through, because I can kind of screen capture and get my content back out, or record, or what have you. It's pretty useful for that.
Yeah.
So,
and then you have
I'll just
giant ultra wide there, which
yeah. This is my new powerhouse monitor. This is the Samsung G9, and really what it is two 27-inch monitors without a bezel.
Right.
So that's really the way to think of it. It's no different than kind of having two. Now, the nice thing with this curve is, like, the curve is actually meant to sort of form fit the curve. It's a significant curve, yeah. But it kind of makes the peripherals of the monitor edges equidistant to the center of the monitor. So it actually feels quite natural when you're sitting in front of it. And then you can have lots of windows open, which comes in handy when we're doing something like this with a live show. Like, I've got the YouTube streaming statistics. I can have the show notes. I can have Slack over here. Oh, I need YouTube chat.
Yeah.
It's really easy to just populate all the content that you're working with right in front of you. So that's kind of the advantage here. One thing I find, like, a little annoying is just, like, where do you put an arm, right?
Yeah, that's always a struggle.
Like, so in a perfect world, maybe this would come from, I don't know, behind the monitor and be a longer arm. I'm not sure, but it does kind of get in the way sometimes, is what I would say. And this is like the cheapest Amazon Basics arm. It kind of makes noise. It's not that nice, to be honest. If I would do it again, I would, maybe. No,
I think you and I have the exact same arm.
Yeah. I did have to sort of these springs were, like, making a lot of noise, so I had to, like, kind of lube these contact points to minimize that. But yeah. And then I do have one light here that I use just as, like, sort of a monitor backlight. I find it, not only it's good for your eyes, but I can kind of turn it towards me here and get some fill light on the side of my face if I need it. So lots of options for lighting. Another thing that I do find difficult, though, is, like, adjusting the lights requires walking to 1, 2, 3, 4 plus. It's just a bit. Yeah. It'd be nice if there was, like, a remote control for all of it. Yeah. So let me switch back to.
Switch back. Yeah, so I was just going to say, I can give kind of a quick high-level overview of what I'm doing. It's kind of similar. I use a different camera. I use a Sony A5100, which is Sony's M200 direct competitor, essentially. And basically, my setup is kind of similar. I use an ultra-wide curved monitor, but not a G9. It's not quite as big. I'd like to have a G9 someday. And, kind of similar position. One big difference, as I just mentioned, though, is that I use the lights I have in front of me, I have a remote control for. And I can control the brightness and color temperature from this remote. And so that makes a big difference. And I can change the brightness on the lights that I have lighting my green screen. Those are manual, but they're behind me anyways. So they're very easy for me to just kind of reach back and make those adjustments if I need to. Dan, if you go to my one big picture,
sure.
My one up, Stream Deck there. What I'll do is I'm going to do my own switch, co-producing here, so you can get a little bit of a picture of me. So I have my side cam, which is my phone running Lyrics SRT into my Pearl Mini that's down over here, and then that's being funneled in. So we got layers of streaming happening here, and that's why you see a slight delay between the two shots of me. But you can see there's a light up above that's kind of lighting up the green screen. And my nowhere near as nice curved monitor is an Alienware that I got a really good deal. A pretty standard Dell monitor there. So it helps, and I got this great desk pad, lttstore.com.
I got the t-shirt too, so there we go.
We're just a couple of brand losers today, I guess, Dan. But again, I find the standing position when I'm presenting really great, and so I prefer doing that, and that's what I'm doing at the moment. But normally I'd be sitting through the normal work day. But yeah, the picture-in-picture you're seeing of me is actually being done on my Pearl Mini, like I said. So, kind of highlighting the advantage of when you do things at these layers over something like SRT, which we're going to dive into in a second. You can have layers of self-producing going on that can enhance the total, program of what you're doing, right? So that helps. That helps a lot. People may have noticed also in that shot, those with the eagle eyes may have noticed an ATEM Mini sitting on my desk in front of me. I use that only as a keyer. I actually bought it for testing purposes, but I only use it as a keyer, and it's great at that. And that's because I don't have a Pearl 2 in my home. I only have a Pearl Mini and a Pearl Nano, so I do the keying at the ATEM level.
But we could probably key you in the studio remotely,
absolutely.
Right? So
all I would have to do is...
That's kind of the cool thing now, right? Is you don't
if I just had it like this, I could do it like this, and you could just key me downstream. No problem.
Yeah, I think we've done that quite a few times. I think I've done that a bunch. Like in 2020, like you said, I had a Pearl Mini. There's no chroma key feature on that device. So in cases where I needed to be keyed, then we were actually using Zoom as my keyer, and I was coming in over NDI to the production mix.
Exactly.
But now with the Pearl 2, I can key myself. I have a few more options, but it would certainly be easy to just send my green screen to the studio and then key me there where there is Pearl 2 as well. So
so then the last thing, I'm using the same crappy mic arm that you are. Mine works fine. And then I have a Blue Yeti, the mini one, mounted on the end of it, which is a microphone I used pre-pandemic, something I had for a very long time on hand already. So transitioning into all of this was super easy in order to kind of, get good audio going. I did change the earbuds I use. I know you use Bluetooth ones. I use wired ones. And so, but I got sort of more professional studio style ones. So they wrap and tuck behind my ear and drop down my back so that they're not in the shot typically. And that's nice. And so I really like using them. I used to use just kind of normal earbuds, and they end up, dangling, and they just, these ones are definitely much more, as they're designed for more studio style use. I find they're much better for being invisible.
Yeah, I like yours because I don't see them. Mine are almost looks like I have gauged earrings or something going on.
Exactly.
So the
It's
nice sleek ones. And I find these ones, even though they're pretty good, they're falling out all the time. I always feel like they're going to fall out. I don't feel confident.
Yeah, my Bluetooth earbuds do that all the time too when I'm just doing things around the house or whatever. So yeah, it's definitely a big difference.
Yeah.
But
let's check in on chat as well. Like, curious, what is everyone else using? Like, are you using webcams? Are you using a capture card with a mirrorless camera? Just curious, generally, if anyone wants to let us know what cameras or what microphones you're using. I would be curious. I do see Lawn Dart. It's Vince. Hey, Vince. AT2040 here. Cool. Yeah. I mean, the Audio-Technica mics are, I would say, solid. Price performance very good. They're on the same tier as like a Shure or something, but quite a bit more affordable as well.
The only thing to keep in mind is something like the 2020. I think the 2040 is the same, right? They're XLR mics, and so you do need that additional interface. Like you mentioned, you're using a Scarlett, right? Probably like a Scarlett 2i or something like that. And those are awesome, but it is an additional interface and additional cost. For me, having the Blue Yeti, listen, the AT is a better mic, no question, but the native USB mic means I can very quickly and easily plug it directly into one of my Pearls or plug it directly into my PC and just move that audio around wherever I need, plug and play. Don't need to adjust things, right? It just kind of works.
Yeah, that's nice. So you plug your Yeti into Pearl as well?
I do. Right now, what you're hearing of me is the Yeti plugged directly into my Pearl Mini. I actually have a second microphone. It's a hidden secret. I'll see if I can bring it into frame here a little bit. I can't quite with the extension of the arm. But I actually have a second microphone. It's actually a lav mic that is attached to my pop filter, and that's feeding into our back channel communication. So what Dan, you're hearing of me is actually that lav mic, And what everyone else is hearing of me in the actual program is the Yeti.
Is the nice Yeti. That makes a lot of sense. So yeah, just instead of splitting that audio, you just got two microphones. That's easy. I've got here on the screen share. There's just a close up of what I'm using. The Focusrite Scarlett. I think it's the 2i or
the Solo or something. Yeah,
it's a Solo. That's what it is. Yeah. Scarlett Solo.
And they're great.
They're great. It's nice. The downside with it is, if I was going to pick a downside, is whatever audio is running on your computer is going to be in the microphone audio. Like it mixes down your computer audio with your microphone audio. So you really do have to make sure that whatever's running on your computer doesn't get accidentally recorded or streamed.
Right,
is what I would say. So, there is a step up of device that they have that keeps those tracks sort of discreet, but this one doesn't have that feature.
So in chat, Vince was just highlighting here, there's a better arm on Amazon, the newer, upgraded, larger, sturdy microphone stand. Yeah, and I have looked at that. I think mine is actually the cheap version from those guys, Vince. And I have looked at the higher end ones. I can't justify it most of the time because I'll be honest, my day-to-day use, I actually use a headset and with a boom mic, not this Yeti, unless I'm doing video productions like this. So I don't really need the better stand most of the time. And then he also mentioned our Z-Cams led me to the Z-Cam IP Gemini Pro. Yeah, and you know what? Z-Cams are awesome, and they represent amazing value as well. But a Z-Cam, even a cheap Z-Cam, is still more expensive than, say, the M200 or the A5100, which you can get sometimes for as low as $400, sometimes less, right? So, there's amazing cameras out there, and I would definitely, the Z-Cam stuff has been amazing. We use it in our studio all the time, and they definitely are great. But if you talk about home use, you really, the Micro Four Thirds or even the APS-C mirrorless. I also have a Panasonic G7, which is a Micro Four Thirds, but it's touchier on lighting, right? So getting an APS-C like the A5100 or the M200 is going to be kind of that sweet spot of not spending too much. It's also just a great camera to have in your pocket if you like to shoot video.
It's great for photos.
Anything,
let me tell you, it is
awesome.
Great photo camera. And APS-C lenses are quite a bit less expensive than like an EF mount or a Sony E mount, and you can find like cool vintage lenses and have a lot of fun with what
the versatile
glass
cameras
you decide to put on here. Yeah.
And you mentioned you never turn yours off. The Sony dummy battery for the A5100 is actually a USB supply, and so I actually have it running off of the USB hub built into my monitor. So when my monitor turns off, the camera turns off. When my monitor turns on, the camera turns on. It's pretty handy.
Perfect. Yeah, that's smart. Yeah, my
handy.
dummy battery is just on AC power, but maybe I should consider switching it to USB and save a few kilowatts.
So let's move a little farther along here. What is probably the biggest one that we've changed? Number one biggest thing was back in the day, 2 years ago, in that quality, super high quality video sample you were showing earlier, Dan, the biggest difference between then and today was that we were using Zoom as our core level of production. We were capturing Zoom into a Pearl and cropping out from the gallery view the individual participants to create their ISOs, mixing and switching between those and streaming it. So in a pinch, often people refer to this as a pin farm or something along those lines, right? There's variations of this. The advantage of this is that it's quick to set up, and the users on the far end don't really need to know or do anything. They just join a Zoom or Teams session, and that's it. The drawback is, although we're able to clean up the zoominess of it, all the ugly UI of Zoom, using cropping, we end up suffering not only the quality losses of the scaling and compression that Zoom does, but we also are then cropping down from into the gallery. So that's probably one of the biggest primary reasons you see in that video sample. The quality of mine, it's not sharp. It's just not quite there.
Yeah.
And that has to do
the
with
resolution of Zoom is just so low, and it scale, and like the bit rate is probably less than a
terrible
megabit into Zoom, out of Zoom, right?
Exactly. So
and Zoom also adjusts based on network traffic,
Right.
so it's inconsistent as well.
and you can't control it. You don't have a choice. You get what you get, and that's it. So the biggest shift for us was absolutely transitioning to an SRT-based workflow, which is what we do today. And this opened up a lot of possibilities, but the biggest thing it did was give us the ability to manually control the quality of the audio and video. And that, running our cameras and our microphones directly into Pearl, like we've been talking about, means that we can go into Pearl and we can make the most of the internet connections that we have by choice. So, Dan, you have way more bandwidth than I do, but at the same time, I have more bandwidth than Zoom really can calculate for, right? My capability is beyond Zoom's maximum level. And so I'm not using it if I'm just stuck there. But if over SRT, I can crank that up. So I can send actual true 1080p full HD at a higher bit rate that Zoom can do over SRT, and make sure that, everyone's heard this. Anyone who's ever worked in sort of video production or audio production has heard the term garbage in, garbage out, right? And that's kind of where we felt we were at with just Zoom. And so the question was, how do we get good in and good out? And really SRT became the backbone of that. As this graphic shows, we still use Zoom as our back channel. For Dan and I to talk in real time, the producer to whisper in our ear, that sort of thing. But the video there doesn't matter. It's not being used. So, I can see a copy of our program in the Zoom feed right now. I don't actually need that. It doesn't really serve a ton of purpose once things are going. So again, funneling all the high quality video and audio from both Dan and I into Pearls over SRT into our studio Pearl, where they're mixed and switched together by Dan, one-man show expert today. Totally remotely, by the way. That Pearl 2 that you're doing is not even in your home. It's in the studio in the office.
That's right. Yeah, I'm actually accessing it right now with TeamViewer. Pretty easy way to do it. But you can also use Epiphan Cloud, and I can just get into it through Epiphan Cloud. So
or
there's
use
a
a
few different
VPN
ways,
or all kinds of different things.
And I'm using the VPN too, because that allows my Stream Deck to
do remote.
To hit that Pearl 2 and be able to access it and do whatever I want. So yeah.
The other thing that we were able to do is, and we've been doing this more and more. I mentioned studio in the office where the Pearl 2 is. More and more, we've been shifting into using a lot more cloud-based tools in conjunction with this, including our titles, which we use Singular Live as our titling system today. We used to use New Blue FX, which is a great application, but it's not cloud-based, which Singular is. And so we were struggling with remote producers to really get the most out of what we wanted with our titles from New Blue. With Singular, you can be totally remote, Dan, because it's a browser-based interface to you as the producer. And then they have a small application that you can run basically anywhere near your production system that translates that feed into NDI, which is how we can bring it into Pearl 2 ultimately for those titles that we can see flash up. So this system, combinations of things, has improved what we were doing as well, without quite relying on a more heavily loaded local system to do some of that titling when we're doing it more remotely. Opened up possibilities of motion backgrounds. People could see that lovely motion background right now that's running. The Stream Deck stuff made a big difference. So everything improved and changed. And I would say we've been doing this SRT workflow, this iteration of it, got to be going on pretty much a year at this point.
It's been super solid. Like let's be pretty clear here. Like this is the way to do it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like At some point, I think we'll probably see the back channel get integrated somewhere, because right now it's kind of just hanging out on its own.
Yeah.
Someone's going to figure that out. I know Epiphan has some ideas here as well, and has been toying with some of the ways of integrating a back channel into the system. But yeah, it's kind of like you're kind of picking the best pieces and the ones that work for you and making it all work together. And in the case of you and I, like, it's easy for both of us because we have pearls here and in the studio. It's like, where does the work get done? It can be one or either or both.
Well, and I think in the future, a lot more of this stuff is going to be shifting into the cloud. And I think one of the things we're seeing quite a bit is, we have people testing this right now. If you're interested in what I'm about to mention, check out the website, epiphan.com. But Unify is a project that we're working on here at Epiphan, which is a cloud-based production system that ingests SRT from anything that supports SRT. We have people right now testing it with PTZ cameras that natively support SRT output, and they can just run audio into the camera, look at the camera, send SRT to the cloud, the remote producer does their thing, and they don't necessarily have to have all these other gizmos and things and stuff like that that's going on if they just need to do a quick on-camera presentation. So there's a ton of capability that's shifting into the cloud going into the future that I think is going to make all of this even easier, although using obviously edge hardware like the smaller pearls can be amazing and can add a huge amount of quality. There's definitely simplifications. And as Dan and I both did, using SRT from our phones as well is also a possibility. So there's, some phones out there have pretty good cameras. So why not try to leverage that with the right technology? But
yeah, and speaking of that, I think we wanted to highlight a couple things, but there's a really great case study on epiphan.com about how we use our phones to sort of stream from a motorcycle, and we did this motorcycle live stream using I'll just make it a little bigger here, using SRT. And in this case, we were able to use H.265 codec to really take advantage of high video quality over limited LTE bandwidth.
Yeah.
And all of this was produced in the cloud with Epiphan Unify. So like where you are is becoming less and less important.
Yeah.
I would say the equipment that you need at the edge is becoming more and more accessible and less expensive, and the powerful tools exist in the cloud, and then you just integrate them into your workflow, and you're kind of all set. And the people on the edge who are where the camera sits don't need to see all of the complexity necessarily, if there is any. It's all kind of existing in a web browser somewhere for an operator to pair up, and that's it. Yeah.
So that's an awesome case study. Please definitely check that one out. But we have a ton of other resources for this. So we have several webinars that are great ones. These are on our back catalog of webinars, including optimizing your at-home video conferencing setup. We'll make sure we get a link in the chat there and in the description down below. The best live streaming setups for every budget was another webinar that we did. We'll make sure we get that one in the chat and in the description down below. And then producing professional video at home is another webinar that we did. So those three cover a lot of what we've talked about today, but pretty in depth. And it's a pet peeve of mine that apparently we still need to talk about this because apparently some people still can't get it right. So check out those resources. They're amazing. We also have a great webinar coming up next week about building the ultimate on-premise video studio for your business. And that is a critical one these days, especially as everyone's shifting back to the office now. The need for video doesn't end just because we're shifting back to the office. So let's now get our offices up to the same level that some of us have invested in our homes. So definitely sign up for that webinar. That's next Wednesday. Check that one out. And then, Dan, we have some blog resources as well, I think, that would be great for this.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of ties into what we're talking about today, but how to look good on camera. There's some pretty basic tips. We've covered some of them today, but dealing with things like windows and how to set your lights, where to position that camera. and we've got some good examples of like what to do right and what can make it more
Maybe
difficult.
Not the best way.
And then there's this great video here where Lorraine kind of gives a walkthrough of taking a
bad to good,
a standard overhead lamp office and turning it into a nice looking, well lit setup. So yeah, that's
one of our most popular blogs is the best cameras for live streaming. And we break that down into different categories. So that's always a great resource as well. Obviously, we talk about some of the ones we've talked about today. I noticed Vince in chat saying, at home, he uses like the original A7S and a GH3. Like those are stellar cameras too. Certainly not in the budget category, but yeah, if I had those, I'd be using it too. So check that blog out. There's also one about live streaming studio essentials, which is a great breakdown blog in terms of getting some of those core things right. And then, of course, we did live shows about sharing our home setups, much like we did today. So you can go check out those other back shows as well, where we really focus on showing those home setups. And you can go back and kind of see how they've evolved, how they've changed. We've tried to highlight that a little bit today. It's ever evolving. It's something where, Dan, you mentioned you've moved rooms a couple of times in your home. I might be moving houses soon, and so that's going to be a whole new space to set up and configure and figure out the tricks and intricacies of doing it. So
it's a constant evolution, and depending on what work you're doing, you might need to change the setup, right? So last week I was shooting some tutorial type content, so that's why I needed the extra monitor and borrow another M200 camera, so I have a couple cameras. So you kind of just have to continue to adapt, but also take advantage of some of the new technology. It's gotten a lot easier to do this over the last couple of years, and I mean our setups, George, are kind of on the, I would say, on the enthusiast side of what you can do, maybe a little more, but you don't need to take it as far as we did. Like you can
but I also really would say basic. Our setups don't break the bank either. So,
not at all.
They're definitely, like you say, the enthusiast level, maybe not the pro level, but they're at the enthusiast level. You can do a lot with it without spending a tremendous amount of money.
Yeah, big time. Well, this was fun. It's nice to kind of update on this, and I liked seeing your second kind of camera behind the camera as well.
Yeah. I had to clean up my whole office just for that one shot, so I hope you appreciate it.
Yeah, it was worth it. It was worth it. And thanks to everybody in chat. Vince, nice to see you. Hope you're doing well. And I think that pretty much does it for today. Anything else, George?
It does. No, I think we're going to wrap it up there. Obviously, be sure to like, follow, subscribe here on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all those places. We're always posting lots of fun stuff. And we do this show every other Thursday at 3 o'clock Eastern. So we do this bi-weekly. So we'll be here in 2 weeks with another show all about something to do with streaming. We're actually working on some really great plans right now for some of our summertime shows, now that we're kind of getting into the middle of the summer. And it should be great. So again, check us out. If there's somebody who looks like garbage in their home setup, share this video with them and let them know there's a better way, and hopefully they can improve that way that looks. So until next time, Dan, great seeing you. Hopefully see you
likewise
very soon in person. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye for now.